Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being a show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale of The Blacklist. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, this episode, well, I brought it up in the previous episode, but obviously because of everything going down, they even kind of bring it up in the episode. Production for the episode got shut down, so a lot more of the episode was animated than I thought it would be, because like they said, like production-wise, that they give it like halfway through production when things started really getting serious, and then eventually just had to stop entirely. So at least like half the episode is animated. That's more than I thought. Maybe some of the ending stuff, but it's also interesting too because it also gives you a little insight into production, showing you what scenes were filmed when. Like nothing's ever like filmed in sequential order. So like the episode is never done the way it's presented as an episode. So it's interesting like how stuff is filmed out of order. I don't know. It's just like, once again, as someone who doesn't really ever look too behind the scenes on production, it's just interesting to notice that, because you'll notice like, oh, so this is stuff they had done beforehand, and then like the next scene would be animated. So it's like, oh, they hadn't filmed that. So it's just, like I said, it's just interesting. Regardless of all of that, obviously Liz is, with her grandfather, and she's talking about the fact of the matter is, it's one thing of like, she doesn't, at the end of the day, the big mystery of who is Reddington really doesn't really matter as much, but what matters most is so much death and destruction has happened because of that secret. A secret, that he's kept, a secret that Dom has kept, and this whole thing about her mom and everything, like her mom's life got turned upside down to whatever secret they told, like people she loved and cared about, Tom, Mr. Kaplan, Kate, they all died, and for her, she feels like with every one of those deaths, a little bit of the good in her, and obviously that's something that's become like, it popped up a lot more. Harold's definitely pointed it out more and more about how the fact is that it seems like Liz is kind of giving in more and more to like her more darker instincts, and it seems like for her, she feels like she's stepping ever closer to that darkness. So it turns into this situation of Liz is kind of torn in between, because obviously she finds out she's being followed by a dude that works for her mom, and she's like, what? Stop following me. What are you doing? So it turns into the thing of like, Liz can no longer be in the middle. That was already brought up last episode. And even more so, this episode pushes the fact is you can't stay in the middle. Whose side are you going to choose? You're going to choose your mom's side, or you're going to choose Reddington's side, at the, the grand scheme of things. Because it's like, hey, you shot your own dad. But for her, it's like, he betrayed me. They put me in this situation. Because she's like, Katarina's like, I've been looking into this situation prior to me coming back and everything. And she's like, so you found answers? It's like, yeah, but I need to first know what side you're on. And obviously for Liz, it's this complicated thing, because even something she talks about later on, it's like, neither you or Reddington are good at telling the truth. None of you have ever been 100% honest to me. Reddington definitely has. It's all, he ends up saying that, like, he's like, oh, I've never lied to you. I've just never always told you the truth. I've never, like, been upfront with a lot of stuff, but I've never, lied to you. I mean, even with the whole Ilya thing, she's like, oh, that's who you are. He never was like, oh, yeah, that's me. And just like, basically was like, oh, that's kind of basic, like, oh, so that's what you believe. That's what you think. That's where your mindset is. And that, I mean, like he never said, like, I am Ilya. He just kind of let her believe, I mean, he acknowledges, hey, I'm not Reddington. Like I said, it's Reddington has a funny way with the truth, the whole situation. So, and even that's a thing, because it gets even more complicated, because it's a thing of like, well, who knows what? So Reddington knows that Katarina's alive, that she faked her death and everything. But the question is, it's like, Liz knows that too, but the question is she in contact with her mom? And on the other side of things, it's like, Katarina doesn't know how close the Reddington is to basically tracking her down, like, over the course of the episode, because this has to do the Kazanjian brothers. The moment we saw at the beginning of the episode, I was like, right, the guys that quote unquote killed her, but basically this was like, obviously, to get not only Townsend but obviously even Reddington off of her back. And so Reddington sets Liz up to find him, but obviously Liz doesn't know, like, because obviously, like, they are protecting a lot of people. Their most recent client in this episode is a dude that basically handles money for a lot of very bad people. So Reddington is using this to find as a step closer to finding Katarina, but Liz wasn't aware of that until later on. And it's interesting because, like, the only person she confides in is Wrestler, about everything that's going on, about the fact of the matter is of like, once again being trapped between like, her loyalty to both of them, in the grand scheme of things. So it's like, and even Wrestler can't really help her. It's like, it's not a favorable position nobody wants to be in. But like the guy that the Kazanzian twins are looking after, he called his daughter. That led the FBI to be able to kind of track him down. Ultimately, at the same time, Reddington gets involved to the point of like, okay, so I'm going to help him disappear because I know that's who the FBI is after, because Aram ended up telling him. And even Cooper, and he's like, Agent Cooper, I have to tell you, Director Cooper, I have to tell you, like, I told Reddington before I told you. And he's like, why would you do that? To stay alive? Which is so interesting because like Aram has like such an interesting relationship. Obviously, after the whole like Samar situation, he was very like anti-F Reddington, but it seemed like he had a calculated plan to mess with Reddington, but to see him kind of be like, okay, I'm kind of scared, because I guess he's like, he kind of let that slide because I was grieving and everything. I was heartbroken. The woman I love, I probably would never see her again, so he kind of let that slide. Probably wouldn't let that slide a second time, so I got to remember who the hell I'm dealing with in the grand scheme of things. Dembe, fortunately enough, gets to the Kazanzian twins and ends up tricking them into revealing like everything. Well, in particular, there's a connection, a guy that could lead them directly to Katerina. I love that it's like, oh, he's listening to his brother getting tortured, but it's like, oh, it wasn't his brother being tortured. It was what's his face? Is it Teddy? I'm blanking. The dude who does all the torturing, but it turns out, oh, he didn't actually do any torturing. It was just like a movie or something that he was playing, and it's just like, oh, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I think that's literally the first time you've never tortured him. I mean, to be fair, he tortured a private eye with, like, all we saw was some board games, so it's like, I don't know how the hell you managed to do that, but it's like, dude is, it's scary at what he does, but it's just interesting on that front. Then there's also the situation of, Liz having that, face to face with Reddington, when it's just kind of like, hey, it's all out here in the open. It's like, okay, so my mom's alive and everything, and I know that this was what the Kazanzian twin thing was brothers thing was about. It was about you getting to them so you can get to my mom. And so it's a situation of like, because obviously Katerina was saying like it's his fault that everything came down to this, and like even Reddington trying to, like, it turns into this argument of him being like, no, it's not like that, because she's like, this is all your fault. For him, it's like, it's not, because it's in the grand scheme of things, like, obviously it just kept turning into this heated argument. She was just like, no, like, this is on you. Like, I need to know the truth. Like, stop hiding stuff from me and stuff like that. And his condition kind of kicks in, so she needs help. So she calls her mom. And obviously, Katerina shows up because it's like, at one point in time, this was someone that she, cared about, which is interesting considering the fact this isn't who she, because obviously it's not Iliad, but it's also not Reddington. But I think it's that thing of like, this is a person, someone pretending to be a person that she cared about. Well, technically pretending to be both her best friend as well as the man that she was in love with, Liz's dad and everything. So it's interesting. But Liz kind of, hears from her mom, like, what it is, like, the archive she's looking for and everything. Apparently, it's major blackmail material on some very powerful people. Said powerful people think that she has it, so that's why, like, there's a bounty on her head. But she's like, I didn't take it. Reddington knows I didn't take it, despite all that, despite me being here saving his life, despite him not lifting a finger to save mine. And so that becomes the question, like, what did Reddington tell Liz before? He's like, it's not my fault. I think at the end of the day, whatever it is, whatever secrets Reddington is keeping about this archive, I think if he's trying to protect it, keep it safe, not letting it get into Katerina's hands, can't let her know the truth, I think it has to be about protecting Liz, because that is first and foremost has always been his main concern. And I don't think Liz necessarily sees that. Like, any actions he's ever taken has been for her protection. Like, because you go digging into the past, like, it's like what happened the moment her real name came up. It's like, oh, the moment the world, like, the moment, like, the Cabal, like, outed her as Masha, Katerina's daughter, all hell broke loose of like, whoa, that brought up a name that should not have been brought up, ever. And obviously people kept digging, more and more stuff come. Like, it's like, for Reddington, it's like she's a danger to me, to you, to Dembe, to his Amon, to, you know, basically even saying Agnes, like this basically saying she's almost kind of saying like she's going to be something that's going to be all of our undoing if we're not careful with this situation, you know? So, and that's the thing, like, I feel like I'm curious, like, even though he isn't Reddington, even though he isn't Ilya, whoever he is someone that does care about Katerina. I mean, because even Katerina doesn't really know who's under there, does she? I mean, like, it seems like she definitely doesn't. So it's like, but whoever he is, like, it seems like he's making it seem like he's going to go after her, but it's like, when the time comes, will he actually pull the trigger? I mean, we're talking, this is the Reddington we come to know, and it's like, well, obviously he would, because he's pulled the trigger on Kaplan, you know? So, and, you know, that turned into the dangerous game that it came in. So it's almost a sad, twisted situation of history repeating itself, of just like, these secrets will ultimately be everyone's undoing, because, like, the whole Kaplan thing happened because of her connection of helping out Tom and Liz. I mean, obviously Tom went looking into something he shouldn't have looked into, and those were those bones, and that sent him down a dangerous path, and that ultimately led to him getting killed. So it's just like, these secrets have stayed buried for so long for a reason. You start upheaving that, you don't know what the domino effect will be. You don't realize the ripple effect across everything of what, you know, it's going to look like. So it just, and obviously Liz is asking about, you know, Reddington's condition. He's telling the doctor's telling, it's like, yeah, Reddington, because she's like, wait, did Reddington tell you not to tell me? And he was like, no, but it's like she can tell. She was like, his eyes basically said, yes, that is the case. So, and obviously even Reddington being like, it's going to be over soon. So basically he gives Liz a test. It's basically like, okay, so he puts her in a position where he lets her know about like what he plans on doing, getting the information from the Kazanjian brothers about the person that could lead to Katerina. So Liz has a choice. Does she tell her mom that Reddington is coming out, like after that got like there's a meeting set up by the Kazanjian brothers. I keep saying twins, brothers. And if Reddington you know, gets the information about Katerina, he'll be able to come after her. So, and even Wrestler's like, what do you do? Because if you do nothing, Reddington might kill your mom. But, you know, if you do something, you know, because even Cooper was like, okay, Liz has basically told me everything that's going down. You are not going after her mom. You cannot kill her mom. I'm not going. But even Reddington is making it seem like that's not going to happen. But then it comes the question like, will he keep his deal that he won't do anything? It's like, that's the thing. And even Liz is like, he's made kind of those promises before that he won't do something, and he does it anyway because it's Reddington. So, but Liz ultimately does warn her mom about what's going on. So, but even then, her mom still let the whole deal go through. And because Home Dude showed up, Dembe's like, oh, you underestimated Liz. You thought she was going to betray you, but it turned, because he was like, oh, he felt like for Reddington, he was like pretty sure that she was going to choose her mom over him. But it's like, oh, I guess I was wrong. Like, hey, I'm glad it didn't turn out that way. But in fact, she had. And even Liz was like, wait, you sent him there. This could be a means of him sending people after you. And they're like, this means that he now knows, like, potentially location and everything. But for Katerina, it's a necessary risk because, yes, he's coming after her, but she is aware of it so she can prepare for it ahead of time. But also, Reddington won't see Liz coming because you're going to be kind of like the snake in the grass, because he thinks you've chosen his side, not realizing you've chosen mine, making you that much more deadly. So, and at the end of the day, it seems like Liz has, like, it seems, and it almost seems like, at first it seemed like she did seem at least conflicted when it did seem like, hey, I did choose a side, but I guess it's like, for her, it's like, she thought it'd be a lot heavier on her, the whole, like, oh, I chose a side situation, but now it's like, no, she feels, it's like, this is my mom's plan and everything, we're going to work together, I'm going to find out the truth, I'm going to find a way to kind of save her, like, whatever this whole archive thing is about, what Reddington's part to play in all of this is. I mean, it's also sad, too, because it's like, because even Reddington was like, oh, he had a feeling. Now that becomes a question. Is he going to, like, despite all this, does he actually think, like, nah, Liz definitely, because she was like, wait, he showed up, and he was like, huh, you sounded surprised. She's like, oh, did he help out in any shape or form? Like, I think the question becomes, does Reddington still doubt her because he's like, oh no, things didn't go the way she thought they were, like Katarina still kind of made her own play, or does he believe Liz? Because once I've talked about it before, like Liz is his blind spot. She continues to be his blind spot. He always kind of gets a little caught off guard, you know. I mean, that's why she's in the favorable position that she's in a grand scheme of things. But obviously, we kind of have to walk away from this whole situation, not fully resolved, because obviously, once again, this is not 100% the season finale they probably wanted it to be, because most seasons are like 20 episodes anyway. Plus, they obviously had to shut down production on this episode to kind of make it into like a season, like ended off on enough of a note to make it a season finale and everything. But I mean, that's the big thing. Like, once again, the big question of like, why hasn't Reddington helped out with this whole archive situation? Why keep it a secret if it meant letting her die? Like, why has so many people? Why is Dom? Well, because the only person who knows about the archive is Reddington. Ilio might know about it, or maybe he doesn't. He knows Reddington's real identity, and that might have some connection to it, but Reddington's the only one that really 100% has a key to helping Katarina. But the question then becomes like, why? Why would Reddington lie? Why would so many people lie, keep all these secrets buried, Dom and Ilio, if it meant Katarina's life? I mean, they betrayed her before. Like, them continuing down this route is a perpetual betrayal over and over, and that betrayal keeps running deeper and deeper. But for them, it has to be a thing of it's for the greater good. Katarina's, if she has to be sacrificed, she has to be, a lamb to the slaughter. If it means, like I said, I think at the end of the day, for Reddington, what is still the most important thing? And that's protecting Liz. It's always been his top priority. So whatever this is, whatever this secret is, whatever this archive is all about, it must have something pertaining to Liz. It's still also, let's not forget, like, Reddington set everything up last episode that, he was like, whatever dark path she ends up going down, she's going to need this. So we might see Liz, like I said, in the grand scheme of things, walk away from, like, this whole FBI business, especially if she's going down a darker route. That could be something we see where she kind of leans, because she always talked about Wrestler being kind of that light to pull her back, but maybe going forward, he might not be enough. Like, the team might not be enough of a light to draw her back, because she's already stepped into the darkness. There might not be any pulling her back from this, so we might see her kind of steer away from like the whole like, oh, being a real, the FBI agent, despite being the conflicted light and darkness within her, that maybe she gives full into the darkness, and eventually that kind of leads her down a criminal route, which in turn probably will help with the whole Reddington situation, which is also the thing of like, yeah, you're still betraying a person that you've known this Reddington, even though, which is ironic to say you've known this Reddington that long, considering the fact that you technically don't even know him at all, but this Reddington, more than you've actually kind of known your own mother, because your mom is still, not only is she just in your life for the first time since you were a little girl, obviously not 100% her decision, or the choices were kind of made for her, but more so like the fact of the matter is you still don't really know much about your mom. Your mom's still an enigma to you, so a lot of stuff like that has to be considered. And it's actually kind of, obviously a sad note, because obviously, like I went into this episode already knowing the actor who plays Dom, he had passed away. Like, I randomly came across it, so I was like, and that's why when they were showing it in the episode that he was getting better, I was like, they're gonna have to sadly like retcon that a little bit, or like handle that going forward. Like, oh yeah, they'd have to do something different with that. And I was like, oh, that just, and I don't know, because I think in my mind it just kind of makes me think a little bit of like the whole Luke Perry situation when it came to Riverdale. It just kind of reminded me of that a little bit. But yeah. Other than that, I spent the entire time, I talked about it a tiny bit, but I should also talk about the fact that it is a little weird. Obviously, like it took some getting used to, and it's still kind of weird. Obviously, the show shifting back and forth between animated and live action. I think they did a really good job of like transitioning back and forth, like the little transition system of it kind of getting a little scrambled as they did that. It's just because you're so not used to it with this show. It was just kind of like, it racks your brain a little bit, kind of, getting adjusted to it. I don't know what you call that art style. Like, my mind is like, I want to say it's almost like a shell shaded type of situation, kind of rotoscope-ish a little bit. Like, rotoscope, like, once again, I'm not an art person, so I'm sure I'm using all the wrong terms, but it kind of reminds me of a combination of the Amazon Prime Video show Undone meets the video game Killer at 7. I mean, kind of any Suda51 games in particular, the No More Heroes type of stuff, meets like a Telltale game. Like, the art style-wise, it's just interesting. The show is coming back for an 8th season, so I'm very curious to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next season. Obviously, like, deceiving and manipulating Reddington is not something new to Liz. It's just kind of like, it's just she just moved on to a new chessboard, I guess, if you want to think about it. I mean, hell, there was literally a chess shop in the episode. Because even that, I didn't even talk about it either, but that dude didn't go down. The dude, because he's like, oh, I've got powerful people, not just criminals and mobsters. Like, I've got judges and police on my, like, so they're going to protect me, not because they want to, because we're friends or anything, or they care about me. It's more about self-preservation. So that storyline's still open, so that could always circle back around in some shape or form. So I'd be interested to see kind of where that would go if they, go forward with that storyline, but also, this whole Katarina situation, this archive, like what that all entails, where all this leads, we'll ultimately have to wait and see, what, goes down in season 8. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good